Ambassador Park Min-ho walked into the same meeting room on Concordia Station where he had sat 3 weeks ago. But everything was different now. The room had been cleaned and decorated with flowers from a dozen different worlds. The lighting was warmer and more welcoming. And most importantly, Councillor Jektar was already standing when he entered. "Ambassador Park," the alien said with a deep bow, "welcome back to Concordia Station. I hope your journey was comfortable." Park Min-ho smiled politely. "Thank you, Counselor. The journey was very smooth." Dr. Kim Yuna entered behind him, followed by several other human diplomats. The alien delegation had also grown. Instead of just Jektar, there were now 5 high-ranking imperial officials, including Trade Minister Vexkala and Military Advisor Krontel. Everyone sat down at the table, but the atmosphere was completely different from their first meeting. The aliens were polite, respectful, and clearly nervous. "Ambassador," Trade Minister Vexkala began, "the Empire wishes to apologize for any misunderstandings during our previous negotiations. It appears our intelligence about human capabilities was outdated." Park Min-ho nodded graciously. "No apology is necessary, Minister. Miscommunications happen between all species when they first meet." Jektar leaned forward. "Perhaps we could start fresh with new terms for trade and diplomatic relations." "I would be happy to discuss new terms," Park Min-ho replied. "What did you have in mind?" The alien pulled out a completely different data pad from the one he had used 3 weeks ago. "The Empire is prepared to offer humanity full membership in the Galactic Trade Association, with all the rights and privileges of an advanced species." Kim Yuna made notes on her tablet as Park Min-ho read through the new terms. The difference was remarkable. Where the original offer had treated humanity as a source of raw materials, the new proposal recognized them as technological equals. "These terms are much more reasonable," Park Min-ho said. "But I notice they focus mainly on trade. What about other forms of cooperation?" Military Advisor Krontel spoke for the first time. "The Empire would be very interested in technological exchange programs. We believe both our peoples could benefit from sharing scientific knowledge." Park Min-ho's smile was genuine this time. "That sounds excellent. Humanity has always believed that cooperation produces better results than competition. Specifically," Vexkala added carefully, "we would be interested in learning about human computer systems, artificial intelligence, and propulsion technologies." "Ah," Park Min-ho said, understanding exactly what they really wanted to know about. "You're curious about our ships." The aliens exchanged glances. Finally, Jektar nodded. "Your vessel, the Indomitable, has demonstrated capabilities that our scientists find difficult to explain. We hoped that perhaps some limited information sharing might be possible." Park Min-ho looked at Kim Yuna, who gave him a small nod. "I think some information sharing would be beneficial," he said, "but it should go both ways. We are also interested in learning about Imperial technologies." "Of course," Krontel said quickly. "The Empire has thousands of years of experience in space travel, mining, and planetary engineering. We would be happy to share appropriate technologies." The negotiations continued for several hours. Unlike their first meeting, both sides were working together to find solutions that benefited everyone. The aliens were no longer trying to dominate humanity, and the humans were generous with their knowledge. "There is one other matter," Park Min-ho said, as the formal negotiations were ending. "Humanity would like to establish permanent diplomatic missions on several Imperial worlds, and we would welcome Imperial diplomats on Earth." "That would be excellent," Jektar agreed. "Cultural exchange is vital for building lasting friendships between species." As the meeting wound down, Kim Yuna spoke quietly to Park Min-ho in Korean. The aliens watched nervously, wondering what the humans were discussing. "The counselor has a question," Park Min-ho announced. "Dr. Kim has been observing Imperial body language and behavior patterns. She is curious about something." Jektar looked uncomfortable. "What kind of question?" "She wants to know if the Empire is afraid of humanity," Park Min-ho said simply. The room became very quiet. The alien diplomats looked at each other, clearly unsure how to answer. Finally, Krontel spoke honestly. Yes, he said. We are concerned about human capabilities. Your technology seems to advance much faster than ours. Your ships are more advanced than anything we can build, and we do not fully understand how you do it. Park Min-ho nodded thoughtfully. I appreciate your honesty, but let me ease your concerns. Humanity does not want to conquer the Empire or replace it. We simply want to be part of the galactic community as equals. But your ships, Vexcala said, they could destroy our fleets. They could, Park Min-ho agreed. But why would we want to? Destruction benefits no one. We would rather build things together than tear them apart. Kim Yuna spoke up for the first time in the meeting. In human culture, we have a saying. A rising tide lifts all boats. When one group succeeds, everyone can benefit. You mean you want to help the Empire become stronger? Jektar asked, clearly confused. We want to help everyone become stronger, Park Min-ho replied. Humans have learned that cooperation produces better results than domination. When we share technology and knowledge, everyone advances faster. The alien diplomats were quiet for a long time, thinking about this concept. In their experience, stronger species conquered weaker ones. The idea of sharing power voluntarily was difficult to understand. There is something else you should know, Park Min-ho said. The Indomitable is not humanity's only advanced ship. We have been building a small fleet of similar vessels, but we are not building them to attack anyone. We are building them to explore. Explore? Krontel asked. The galaxy is vast, Kim Yuna explained. There are millions of systems that no one has ever visited. There are probably hundreds of species that we have never met. Instead of fighting over what we already have, humans preferred to discover what else might be out there. Park Min-ho stood up from the table. The Empire has controlled this region of space for thousands of years. You have built an impressive civilization. But even the Empire has only explored a small fraction of the galaxy. Think of what we could discover if we worked together. The aliens looked at each other with expressions that might have been excitement. You are proposing a partnership for exploration? Vexcala asked. Among other things, yes. Human ships could scout new regions while Imperial vessels provide support and establish communications. We could share the costs, the risks, and the discoveries. Jektar was practically vibrating with excitement. The Council would need to approve such a plan, but I think they would be very interested. As the meeting officially ended, the atmosphere in the room was completely different from 3 weeks ago. Instead of suspicion and hostility, there was genuine enthusiasm for future cooperation. There is one last thing, Park Min-ho said as everyone prepared to leave. Admiral Choi Suman, the commander of Earth's fleet, has asked me to extend an invitation. The Empire is welcome to send a delegation to visit our home system. We would be happy to show you how our ships are built. The alien diplomats looked stunned. No species had ever voluntarily revealed their military secrets to potential rivals. You would show us your shipyards? Krontel asked in disbelief. Why not? Park Min-ho replied. If we are going to be partners, we should trust each other. Besides, seeing how we build ships might give you ideas for building better ones yourself. As the humans left the meeting room, Jektar turned to his colleagues. I think, he said quietly, that we have been very fortunate. We could have had the humans as enemies. Instead, we will have them as friends. Do you think they are sincere about sharing their technology? Vexcala asked. Jektar thought about everything he had observed about human behavior over the past weeks. Yes, he said finally. I think they really do want to help everyone succeed. It is a very strange way of thinking, but it seems to work for them. 6 months later, the first joint human Imperial exploration fleet would depart for the unexplored regions beyond the galactic rim. The ships would discover 17 new star systems, 3 habitable worlds, and 2 previously unknown species. But, more importantly, they would prove that cooperation really could produce results that no single species could achieve alone. The age of human Imperial partnership had begun. Grand Admiral Kelmoth had not slept in 3 days. The most powerful military leader in the Galactic Empire sat in his private office, staring at reports that made no sense. Around him, empty coffee cups and food containers showed how long he had been working without rest. The door to his office opened and Admiral Vosketh entered. The smaller alien looked terrible. His uniform was wrinkled, his eyes were red, and his hands were shaking slightly. "Report," Kelmoth said without looking up from his papers. "Sir," Vosketh began, then stopped. He had been trying to explain what happened for hours, but it still sounded impossible even to him. "The human ship is back." Kelmoth finally looked. "Ubbies, where?" "Same location as before. Just sitting there, waiting." The Grand Admiral stood up and walked to the massive window that looked out over the Imperial fleet. Hundreds of warships floated in space around the command station. It was the largest military force ever assembled in one place, and according to the reports he had been reading, it might not be enough to stop one small human ship. "Have you been able to scan it properly this time without him?" he asked. Vosketh shook his head. "Every time our sensors try to get detailed readings, the data becomes confused. It's like the ship is somehow scrambling our instruments without actually jamming them." Kelmoth turned away from the window. In his 60 years of military service, he had faced rebellions, alien invasions, and civil wars. But he had never encountered anything like this. "Show me the tactical analysis," he ordered. They walked to the main command center. The huge room was full of officers and analysts, all working frantically to understand the human threat. On the central display, a three-dimensional map showed the positions of every ship in the area. "Based on what happened to Admiral Vosketh's patrol group," the chief analyst began, "we estimate that the human ship has weapon systems unlike anything we have ever encountered. They were able to simultaneously disable 12 battle cruisers without our sensors detecting any weapon discharges." "What about their movement capabilities?" Kelmoth asked. "Even more concerning, sir. The ship appears to use some form of instantaneous travel. Not faster than light, but actual teleportation. They can appear anywhere within a large area without any warning." Kelmoth studied the display. According to the computer models, a single human ship could potentially defeat their entire fleet simply by appearing, attacking, and disappearing before they could respond. "Recommendations?" he asked. His strategic advisor, an old alien named Krextal, stepped forward. "Sir, I believe we have only two options. Either we negotiate with the humans as equals, or we attempt to destroy their ship with overwhelming force." "Can we destroy it?" Krextal hesitated. "Unknown, sir. We would need to hit it with everything we have, all at once, before it has a chance to teleport away. The problem is that we don't know where it will appear next." Just then, alarms began sounding throughout the command center. Officers rushed to their stations as new information appeared on the displays. "Sir," the communications officer called, "out. The human ship is transmitting. Put it through." The main screen changed to show Captain Lee Do-Yun. The human looked exactly as calm and professional as before. Behind him, his bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. "Grand Admiral," Kelmoth, Do-Yun said with a slight bow. "I am Captain Do-Yun of the HSS Indomitable. I understand you wish to speak with me." Kelmoth stepped forward. "Captain, you have demonstrated capabilities that concern the Empire. We need to understand your intentions." "My intentions are peaceful," Do-Yun replied. "Humanity wishes to establish normal diplomatic and trade relations with the Galactic Empire." "Normal relations?" Kelmoth couldn't hide his surprise. "Captain, your single ship has neutralized one of our patrol groups and appears capable of threatening our entire fleet. That is not normal." Do-Yun looked genuinely confused. "Grand Admiral, we only disabled your weapons after your forces attempted to attack us. The Indomitable has not threatened anyone. We are simply defending ourselves." "Defending?" Vosketh stepped forward angrily. "You made our ships helpless." The human captain turned to look at him. "Admiral Vosketh, if the Indomitable had wanted to harm your ships, they would no longer exist. We specifically chose to disable only your weapons while leaving your life support, engines, and communication systems intact. This was an act of restraint, not aggression." The comment sent a chill through everyone in the command center. The human was saying that he could have destroyed 12 battle cruisers as easily as he had disabled them. "What do you want from us?" Kelmoth asked. "Very little," Do-Yun replied. We want the same trading rights that other advanced species enjoy. We want our ships to be able to travel freely through Imperial space. And we want to be treated as equals in diplomatic situations. And if we refuse? The human captain was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was still polite, but there was something harder underneath. Grand Admiral, humanity does not wish to fight the Empire, but we will not allow ourselves to be treated as a primitive species. We are offering partnership. If you prefer conflict, that is your choice. Kelmoth felt the weight of decision pressing down on him. Everything in his military training told him that no single ship should be able to threaten the entire Imperial fleet. But the evidence was right in front of him. Captain, he said slowly, help me understand something. How is your small ship so powerful? Do-Hyun smiled for the first time in the conversation. Grand Admiral, I think there has been a fundamental misunderstanding about human technology. Your intelligence services have been rating us based on the size and number of our ships, but humans develop technology differently than most species. Explain. While other species focus on building bigger and more numerous ships, humans focus on making our ships smarter and more efficient. The Indomitable is not just a warship. It is a thinking machine that can process information and react to threats faster than any crew-operated vessel. On the display behind Do-Hyun, his bridge crew was working at stations that looked more like computer terminals than traditional ship controls. Our weapons are not more powerful than yours, he continued. They are more precise. Our engines are not bigger. They use physics more efficiently. Our sensors don't just detect objects, they analyze and predict behavior patterns. Kelmoth began to understand. You are saying that human ships are essentially intelligent computers. In a sense, yes, but guided by human creativity and intuition. The combination of artificial intelligence and human judgment creates capabilities that neither could achieve alone. The Grand Admiral looked around his command center. Hundreds of officers were manually operating systems that the humans had, apparently automated. His ships were impressive, but they were still dependent on biological crews making decisions and operating equipment. How many ships like the Indomitable do you have? He asked. Do-Hyun's smile widened slightly. That information is classified, but I can tell you that the Indomitable is not unique. The implication was clear. Humanity had built more than one impossible ship. Grand Admiral, Do-Hyun continued, I hope you will consider our offer carefully. Humanity has much to contribute to galactic civilization. We can share our technological advances, our scientific knowledge, and our cultural perspectives. All we ask is to be treated with the respect that any advanced species deserves. Kelmoth made his decision. Captain, Do-Hyun, I am authorizing immediate diplomatic negotiations. Your ship will be granted safe passage to Concordia Station, where our representatives will meet with yours to discuss terms. Thank you, Grand Admiral. That is all we have ever wanted. The transmission ended. Kelmoth turned to his staff, all of whom were staring at him in shock. Sir, Vosketh said, are you sure this is wise? We are essentially surrendering to a single ship. Kelmoth looked at his subordinate with tired eyes. Admiral, we are not surrendering. We are acknowledging reality. The humans have technology we do not understand and cannot currently match. We can either accept them as allies or face them as enemies. But they are just one species, from one small system. One species, Kelmoth agreed. That has just redefined what military power means. I suggest we learn from them rather than fight them. As the Imperial fleet began to disperse, Kelmoth wondered what other surprises humanity had in store for the galaxy. One thing was certain, the age of Imperial dominance was over. A new age was beginning. Admiral Vosketh was drinking his morning kava when the alarm started screaming. The massive alien dropped his cup and rushed to the command center of his flagship, the Imperial battlecruiser Dominator. All around him, officers were running to their stations with looks of panic on their faces. Report! He shouted as he reached the central command platform. His intelligence officer, a nervous alien named Plaxtel, was staring at his screens with wide eyes. Sir, we have an unknown contact at the edge of our patrol zone. It just appeared out of nowhere. What do you mean, appeared? Vosketh demanded. Ships don't just appear. They have to travel through space like everything else. Sir, our sensors show no trace of any ship approaching. No warp signature, no engine trail, nothing. Then suddenly there it was. The Admiral looked at the main display screen. A small dot was blinking at the edge of their sensor range. The ship was just sitting there, not moving, not doing anything threatening, but something about it made his skin crawl. What type of ship is it? He asked. Plaxtel looked confused. That's the problem, sir. We can't identify it. The energy signature doesn't match anything in our databases. And the power readings. He paused and looked at his instruments again. Sir, the power readings must be wrong. Show me. The screen changed to display technical information about the unknown ship. Vosketh read the numbers and felt his blood turn cold. According to their sensors, this small ship was generating more power than his entire battle group. Run the scan. Again, he ordered. There must be an error. They ran the scan 3 more times. The results were always the same. The unknown ship was roughly the size of an Imperial patrol vessel, but it was producing energy levels that should have been impossible for anything smaller than a space station. Sir, his communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the unknown ship. Put it through. The main screen changed to show a human face. The man was wearing what looked like a military uniform, and he appeared completely calm and relaxed. Greetings, the human said in perfect Imperial Standard language. I am Captain Lee Do-hyun of the HSS Indomitable. Humanity requests a meeting with Imperial representatives to discuss diplomatic relations. Vosketh stared at the screen. A human ship, here, in Imperial space. That was impossible. The humans barely had any ships at all, and none of them should be capable of traveling this far from their home system. This is Admiral Vosketh of the Imperial Navy, he replied. You are in violation of Imperial space. Identify yourself and state your intentions. The human captain smiled politely. As I said, Admiral, I am Captain Do-hyun of the human vessel, Indomitable. We have come to open formal diplomatic relations with the Galactic Empire. Impossible, Vosketh said. Human ships do not have the capability to reach this sector. And yet here I am, Do-hyun replied calmly. The Admiral felt a growing sense of unease. Something was very wrong here. He turned to his tactical officer. How many ships are in that group? He asked quietly. Just one, sir. It appears to be alone. Vosketh was confused. In his experience, only the most advanced military vessels traveled alone in unknown space. And according to Imperial intelligence, humans did not have any advanced military vessels. Captain Do-hyun, he said, turning back to the Yaz screen, your ship will submit to inspection and escort to the nearest Imperial facility. The human's smile didn't change. I'm afraid that won't be possible, Admiral. The Indomitable is on a diplomatic mission. We cannot allow foreign military forces to board our vessel. You do not have a choice, Vosketh replied angrily. This is Imperial space and you will follow Imperial law. Admiral, Do-hyun said, still calm. I believe there may be some confusion about the situation here. Perhaps you should consult with your superiors before making any hasty decisions. The comment made Vosketh furious. No alien captain had ever spoken to him like that, especially not from some primitive species that barely knew how to build starships. Battle stations, he ordered. All ships, surround the human vessel. Around him, 12 Imperial battlecruisers began moving toward the Indomitable. Each ship was 3 times larger than the human vessel and carried enough firepower to level a city. Surely the humans would surrender when they saw what they were facing. But the human captain didn't look worried at all. Admiral, Do-hyun said, I strongly advise you to reconsider this course of action. The time for talking is over, Vosketh declared. Surrender your ship or we will take it by force. The human sighed. Very well. But please understand that what happens next is your choice, not mine. The transmission ended. On the tactical display, the human ship just sat there, not moving, not powering weapons, not doing anything that looked threatening. "All ships report ready, Admiral," his tactical officer announced. "Target their engines," Vosketh ordered. "Disable the ship so we can board it." But before anyone could fire, something impossible happened. The Indomitable moved. It didn't turn, like a normal ship. It didn't accelerate gradually. One moment it was sitting still at the center of the Imperial formation. The next moment it was behind them, having somehow traveled several thousand kilometers in the blink of an eye. "What the hell was that?" Vosketh shouted. His navigation officer was frantically checking his instruments. "Sir, I don't know how they did that. There was no energy surge, no drive signature. They just moved." Before anyone could respond, the Indomitable moved again. This time it appeared directly above the Admiral's flagship, close enough that they could see details of its hull design. "Impossible," whispered his tactical officer. "No ship can maneuver like that." The communications system crackled to life. Captain Do-hyun's face appeared on the screen again. "Admiral," he said politely, "I want you to understand that the Indomitable means you no harm. But I also want you to understand that your ships pose no threat to us." "You're bluffing," Vosketh snarled. "One small ship against 12 battlecruisers? You cannot win." Do-hyun looked sad. "I was hoping to avoid this demonstration, but you seem to require proof." The transmission ended again. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then, every alarm on every Imperial ship started screaming at once. On the tactical display, red warning lights were flashing all around the Imperial formation. Vosketh looked at the damage reports flooding in from his fleet. Every single Imperial ship had been hit simultaneously, but they hadn't been damaged. Instead, their weapon systems had been precisely disabled. 12 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy had been rendered harmless in less than 30 seconds, and none of them had seen where the shots came from. "How?" Vosketh whispered. His tactical officer was shaking. "Sir, our sensors show no weapon discharges from the human ship. No energy beams, no projectiles, nothing. But somehow they targeted and disabled every weapon system in our fleet." The Admiral felt something he had never experienced in 40 years of military service. Fear. The human ship appeared on their communication screen one more time. "Admiral," Captain Do-hyun said, "I hope this demonstration has clarified the situation. The Indomitable is here on a peaceful mission, but we are quite capable of defending ourselves if necessary." Vosketh could barely speak. What do you want?" "As I said from the beginning," Do-hyun replied, "humanity wishes to establish diplomatic relations with the Galactic Empire. I suggest you contact your superiors and arrange for proper negotiations." The transmission ended, and the human ship disappeared again. One moment it was there, the next moment it was gone, leaving no trace on any of their sensors. Vosketh sat down heavily in his command chair. Around him, his officers were trying to make sense of what had just happened. But he already understood. Everything they thought they knew about humans was wrong, everything. Admiral Choi Soo-min stood in the command center deep beneath Seoul. Around her, dozens of screens showed ships being built in secret facilities across the solar system. After 2 years of careful planning, humanity's greatest project was almost ready. "Status report," she said to the officer at her right. Commander Lim Hee-jin looked up from her console. "All systems are green, Admiral. The Indomitable is ready for final testing." Through the massive windows of the underground facility, Soo-min could see Earth's surface far above. Most people up there had no idea what was happening down here. The Bao government had told them that humanity was building a new space station. They had no idea they were actually building the most advanced warship in the galaxy. "Bring up the live feed from the ship," Soo-min ordered. The main screen flickered and showed the inside of the HSS Indomitable. Captain Lee Do-hyun appeared on the screen. He was standing on the bridge of humanity's first real warship. Behind him, dozens of crew members worked at stations that looked more like video game consoles than traditional ship controls. "Admiral," Do-hyun said with a slight bow, "the ship is ready for your inspection." Soo-min nodded. "Show me the quantum fold drive first." The camera followed Do-hyun as he walked through the ship. The Indomitable was not huge by alien standards, but every inch had been designed for maximum efficiency. The hallways were lined with screens that could display anything from star maps to tactical information. The walls themselves were made of smart materials that could change their properties based on what the ship needed. They reached the engine room, where Lieutenant Bayek Jiwoo was waiting. The young engineer's face was bright with excitement. "Admiral," he said, "I can barely believe this thing actually works." The quantum fold drive looked like a large crystal surrounded by complex machinery. But Suman knew that the real magic was in the software that controlled it. Human programmers had spent months creating artificial intelligence systems that could calculate fold jumps faster than any alien computer. "The math is perfect," Beck continued. "We can jump from Earth to the edge of Imperial space in less than 30 minutes. Most alien ships would take weeks to make that trip." Suman smiled. The drive was based on theoretical work that human scientists had been developing for decades. While other species built bigger engines, humans had focused on understanding the deeper physics of space travel. The result was technology that seemed impossible to everyone else. "Show me the weapons systems," she said. They moved to another part of the ship. Major Han Seokjin was waiting in what humans called the tactical center. Unlike alien warships that had separate stations for different weapons, the Indomitable's weapons were all controlled by a single AI system. "The beauty of our design," Han explained, "is that we don't just have weapons, we have a weapons network. Every system on the ship can share information instantly. When we lock onto a target, every weapon knows exactly where to hit for maximum effect." The weapons themselves were unlike anything aliens had ever seen. Instead of building massive cannons that could destroy planets, humans had built precise instruments that could disable specific systems on enemy ships. They could knock out engines without killing the crew, or destroy weapons while leaving life support intact. "We also have defensive systems that most species never thought of," Han continued. "Our armor can change density and composition based on what's hitting it. Our shields can redirect energy instead of just absorbing it. And our stealth systems make us almost invisible to normal sensors." But the most impressive part of the ship was not any single system. It was how everything worked together. The ship's main AI was based on neural network technology that humans had developed for entertainment and social media. The AI could predict enemy actions, coordinate complex maneuvers, and even learn new tactics during battle. "How many crew members does the ship need?" Suman asked. 43, Do-hyun replied. "Most alien ships this size need at least 300. But our automation systems handle most of the basic functions. The crew focuses on strategy and decision-making." Suman was impressed, but not surprised. This was exactly what she had expected when the project began. While other species built warships like they were building cities, big, complex, and requiring huge crews, humans had built theirs like they built computers. Small, efficient, and incredibly smart. "Run a full systems test," she ordered. For the next hour, the Indomitable ran through every system and function. The quantum fold drive powered up without any problems. The weapons systems tracked and locked onto targets with perfect accuracy. The stealth systems made the ship disappear completely from sensors. Everything worked exactly as designed. "Impressive," Suman said. "But how does it perform in actual conditions?" Do-hyun smiled. "Would you like to see a demonstration?" Within minutes, the Indomitable was moving away from its hidden construction facility. The ship accelerated smoothly, reaching speeds that would have stressed the hulls of most alien vessels. But the human ship showed no signs of strain. They flew past Mars and toward the outer solar system. As they traveled, the ship's sensors picked up everything around them. Unlike alien ships that could only scan in one direction at a time, the Indomitable could monitor the entire area around it simultaneously. "Now watch this," Do-hyun said. He gave an order to the ship's AI. Suddenly, the Indomitable seemed to fold in on itself and disappear. A few seconds later, it reappeared near Jupiter, over 500 million kilometers away. "Quantum fold jump completed," reported Bayek from the engine room. "Total travel time, 4.3 seconds. Energy consumption, 12% of maximum capacity." Suman felt a chill of excitement run down her spine. The alien ships she had studied took hours to travel that distance, and they used much more energy doing it. "One more test," she said. "Show me the combat systems." The ship's AI created a simulation of an alien battlecruiser. Within seconds, the Indomitable's weapons had identified 17 critical systems on the simulated enemy ship. The targeting was so precise that they could have disabled the enemy vessel without harming any of the crew. How long would a typical alien ship take to achieve the same targeting solution? Suman asked. Based on our analysis of Imperial ships, Han replied, anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. We can do it in under 30 seconds. The demonstration was complete. Humanity now had a warship that was faster, smarter, and more efficient than anything else in the galaxy. But more importantly, they had proven that human approaches to technology could produce results that aliens thought were impossible. "Excellent work, everyone," Suman said. "Captain Do-hyun, prepare for the ship's first mission." "Where are we going, Admiral?" Suman's smile was not entirely friendly. "We are going to pay a visit to the Galactic Empire. I think it's time they learned what humanity is really capable of." The crew of the Indomitable felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. They all knew that this mission would change everything. For thousands of years, the Galactic Empire had been the most powerful force in the galaxy. In a few days, they would learn that humanity had different ideas about power. As the ship prepared to leave the solar system, Suman thought about the alien diplomats who had tried to treat humanity as a primitive species. They had made a critical error. They had assumed that young meant weak. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The meeting room on Concordia Station was cold and quiet. Ambassador Park Min-ho sat at the long metal table, waiting. Across from him sat Councillor Jektar, one of the most important trade officials in the Galactic Empire. The alien was tall and thin, with blue skin and 4 arms. His eyes looked down at Park Min-ho like he was studying an insect. Dr. Kim Yuna sat next to Park Min-ho. She was quiet and watched everything carefully. As Earth's top expert on alien behavior, she had come to help with the trade talks, but she could already see this was not going well. "So," Councillor Jektar said in his deep voice, "the humans want to trade with the Empire. How interesting." Park Min-ho smiled politely. "We believe both our peoples could benefit from working together. Humanity has much to offer." The alien laughed. It was not a nice sound. "Really? What could your species possibly have that we would want? You have been in space for less than 50 years. We have been traveling between stars for thousands of years." Kim Yuna made a small note on her tablet. She had studied dozens of alien species, and she knew the signs. Jektar was not just proud, he was overconfident. This was a weakness they could use. "Perhaps we should start with simple things," Park Min-ho said. "We could trade raw materials, cultural items, or scientific research." Jektar waved one of his hands dismissively. "The Empire has no interest in primitive human science. However, we might be willing to accept some of your raw materials. In exchange, we will give you basic technology that will help your species advance." "That sounds very generous," Park Min-ho said, but his voice carried a slight edge that Kim Yuna noticed. "What exactly did you have in mind?" The counselor pulled out a data pad and placed it on the table. "These are the standard terms we offer to new species. You will provide us with rare metals and energy sources from your system. We will give you improved food production methods and basic medical technology." Park Min-ho looked at the pad. The terms were terrible. Humanity would basically become a mining colony for the Empire. In return, they would get technology that Earth had already developed on its own. "I'm afraid these terms are not acceptable," Park Min-ho said calmly. Jektar's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me? Did you just reject an offer from the Galactic Empire?" "Did," Park Min-ho replied. "These terms treat humanity as a servant species. We are looking for partnership, not submission." The alien stood up from his chair, his 4 arms crossed in front of his chest. "Young species do not get to make demands. You should be grateful that the Empire is willing to trade with you at all." Kim Yuna watched the alien's body language carefully. Jektar was angry, but he was also confused. Most new species accepted whatever terms the Empire offered. They were usually too scared or too desperate to argue. "Counselor," Park Min-ho said, still calm, "I think there may be some misunderstanding here. The Empire seems to believe that humanity is desperate for your help. This is not the case." "Not desperate?" Jektar laughed again. "Your species barely controls one star system. You have no military fleet worth mentioning. Your technology is centuries behind ours. What makes you think you can negotiate as equals?" Park Min-ho looked at Kim Yuna. She gave him a small nod. It was time to give the alien something to think about. "Counselor," Park Min-ho said, "may I ask how the Empire's intelligence services rate human technology?" "Your technology is rated as level 3 on the Imperial scale," Jektar said proudly. "That means you are slightly above stone tools but far below anything useful." "I see. And when was this assessment last updated?" The alien looked at his data pad. 18 months ago, when we first made contact with your species." Park Min-ho nodded. "That explains the confusion. You see, human technology development moves very quickly, much faster than most species, I believe." "Impossible," Jektar said. "Technology advancement takes centuries. No species can develop significantly in just 18 months. Kim Yuna spoke for the first time. "Counselor, if I may ask, how long did it take your species to develop faster than light travel after you first reached your moon?" The alien looked surprised by the question. "Nearly 500 years. Why?" "Humanity developed faster than light travel 30 years after we reached our moon," she said quietly. Jektar stared at her. "That is impossible. The mathematics alone would take decades to work out." "Perhaps your species works differently than ours," Park Min-ho suggested. "Human scientists often work in large groups, sharing information instantly across our entire planet. We also use computers to help us solve complex problems much faster." The counselor sat back down. For the first time, he looked uncertain. "Even so, there are limits to how fast any species can advance. The laws of physics do not change." "You are absolutely right," Park Min-ho agreed. "The laws of physics do not change, but our understanding of them does. And I think you will find that humanity understands them better than your intelligence reports suggest." Kim Yuna watched as the alien's confidence began to crack. She had seen this before with other species. When faced with evidence that their assumptions were wrong, they either became curious or defensive. Jektar was becoming defensive. "You speak in riddles," the counselor said. "If humans are so advanced, why do you need to trade with the Empire at all?" "We do not need to trade with you," Park Min-ho said simply. "We want to. There is a difference." The room became very quiet. Jektar looked back and forth between the two humans. Something in their calm confidence was starting to worry him. "Are you threatening the Empire?" he asked. "Not at all," Park Min-ho replied. "We are simply trying to establish accurate expectations for these negotiations. The Empire seems to believe it holds all the power in this relationship. That may not be as true as you think." Jektar stood up again. This time, his movements were quick and angry. "The Empire has the largest fleet in the galaxy. We control thousands of worlds. We have weapons that could destroy your entire planet. You dare to suggest that we do not hold the power here?" Park Min-ho remained seated and calm. "Counselor, I have great respect for the Empire's achievements. Your civilization has accomplished remarkable things over thousands of years. But power is not always about size. Sometimes it is about innovation." "Innovation?" The alien's voice was rising. "What innovation could a backward species like yours possibly have developed?" Kim Yuna and Park Min-ho exchanged another look. They had planned for this moment carefully. "Perhaps," Park Min-ho said, "we should take a break from these negotiations. I suggest we reconvene in 1 week. That will give both sides time to research each other more thoroughly." "Research?" Jektar was almost shouting now. "There is nothing about your primitive species that the Empire needs to research." Park Min-ho stood up slowly. His face was still calm, but there was something in his eyes that made Kim Yuna think of steel. "Counselor," he said quietly, "I strongly Suggest that you update your intelligence files on humanity before our next meeting. You may find the information educational." With that, the two humans gathered their materials and walked out of the room. Behind them, Jektar stood in shocked silence. As they walked down the hallway, Kim Yuna smiled. "That went well," she said. "Phase 1 is complete," Park Min-ho agreed. "Now we wait and see if they take the hint." "And if they don't?" Park Min-ho's smile was not entirely friendly. "Then they will get a much more direct education very soon." Quinty. Days later, Jektar would receive a priority message from Imperial Intelligence. The message would contain updated information about human technology that would keep him awake for many nights. But by then, it would be too late to change what was already in motion. The alarm bells rang through the massive space station. Krixtal jumped up from his chair and looked at the screens in front of him. His 6 eyes moved quickly across the data flowing down the monitors. Something was wrong. For 20 years, Krixtal had worked as a communications officer on Velthar Prime. The station was the biggest listening post in the galaxy. Every day, millions of messages passed through their systems. Most were boring trade reports or family messages between planets. But today was different. "What is it now?" asked his partner Vextal from across the room. The older alien was tired and wanted to go home. He had been working double shifts for weeks. "I think we have a problem," Krixtal said. His voice was quiet but worried. "This signal came from the Sol system. You know, where those new humans live." Vextal laughed. "The humans? Those little pink creatures? They barely know how to fly between their own planets. What could they possibly send that would worry us?" Krixtal did not laugh. He stared at the screen and read the data again. The numbers did not make sense. According to the message, the humans were building something big. Something that should not be possible. "Look at these power readings," he said, pointing to his screen. "This ship design shows energy output levels that are 10 times higher than our best warships. That cannot be right." Vextal walked over and looked at the screen. His forearms crossed as he studied the numbers. After a few minutes, he shook his head. "The humans must have made a mistake," he said. "New species always get confused with their math when they first start. Building spaceships. Remember when the Zorlak first tried to make a warp drive? They thought they could power it with solar panels. But Krixtal was not satisfied. He had studied human transmissions for months. These creatures were strange. They did not think like other species. Where most aliens would build bigger ships with more weapons, humans seemed to focus on making their ships smarter and faster. The message he was reading contained detailed blueprints for something called the HSS Indomitable. The ship was not very big compared to Imperial warships, but the technology described in the plans was incredible. The humans wrote about something called quantum fold drives. They mentioned AI systems that could think faster than any computer in the Empire. They talked about weapons that could hit targets from distances that seemed impossible. "I need to report this," Krixtal said. "Report what?" Vextal asked. "That a species that just learned how to leave their home system thinks they can build super ships? The admirals will laugh at you." Krixtal looked at his partner. Vextal was probably right. The Galactic Empire had existed for thousands of years. They had conquered hundreds of worlds and controlled millions of species. Humans had only been in space for a few decades. How could they possibly build something better than Imperial technology? But something about the human transmissions bothered him. The math was perfect. Too perfect. Every calculation was exact. Every measurement was precise. This was not the work of a species making mistakes. He decided to dig deeper into the human communications. What he found made his blood run cold. The humans were not just building one ship. They were building an entire fleet, and they were doing it in secret. Most of their transmissions were coded, but Krixtal was good at his job. He had learned to break codes from dozens of different species. What he discovered was a complete military program. The humans called it Project Indomitable. They were developing new types of weapons, new types of shields, and new types of engines. But most shocking of all, they were doing it all at the same time. Most species in the galaxy developed technology slowly. They would work on weapons for a few years, then work on engines, then work on shields. It took decades to build a single advanced warship, but the humans were different. They seemed to work on everything at once, and they were doing it fast. Krikstal found messages between human scientists and engineers. They talked about using something called gaming technology to test their ship designs. They mentioned AI systems based on neural networks. They discussed materials that could change shape and strength depending on what hit them. None of this should be possible for such a young species. He printed out all the data and walked to the office of Admiral Vosketh. The admiral was the commander of this section of space. He was old, experienced, and very proud of the Empire's power. "Admiral," Krikstal said as he entered the office, "I have something you need to see." Admiral Vosketh looked up from his reports. His large head turned toward the communications officer. "This better be important, Krikstal. I have a meeting with High Command in 1 hour." Krikstal placed the printed data on the admiral's desk. "Sir, I intercepted these transmissions from the human home system. I think they are building warships that could be a threat to the Empire." The admiral picked up the papers and read them quickly. After a few minutes, he started laughing. "A threat?" he said. "These humans think they can build ships better than ours. We have been building warships for 10,000 years. Our smallest patrol boat could destroy their entire planet." "But sir," Krikstal said, "look at the technical specifications. These numbers suggest technology far beyond what we thought they possessed." Admiral Vosketh threw the papers back on his desk. "Numbers can lie, officer, especially when they come from species that do not understand what they are doing. The humans probably copied some old Imperial designs and changed a few numbers. They have no idea what real military power looks like." Krikstal felt frustrated. He had studied these transmissions for hours. The technology described in the human plans was not copied from anyone. It was completely new, different from anything he had ever seen. "With respect, sir," he said, "I think we should at least warn the border patrol ships. If even half of what these plans show is real, we could have a problem." The admiral stood up from his chair. His massive form towered over Krikstal. "Officer, let me explain something to you," he said. "The Galactic Empire controls 3,000 star systems. We have fleets that could destroy entire solar systems. We have weapons that can crack planets in half. Do you really think that a species that just invented faster-than-light travel could threaten us?" Krikstal wanted to argue, but he knew it was useless. The admiral had made up his mind. Like most Imperial officers, he could not imagine that any young species could develop technology better than theirs. "No, sir," Krikstal said quietly. "Good. Now file those reports in the low-priority section and get back to work. We have real threats to worry about." Krikstal walked back to his station feeling defeated, but he could not shake the feeling that something big was coming. The human transmissions continued to arrive every day, and every day they showed more advanced technology. He decided to keep monitoring the human communications in his spare time. If the humans really were building what their plans suggested, the Empire needed to know about it, even if his superiors did not want to listen. 3 months later, Krikstal would wish that someone had taken his warnings seriously. But by then, it would be too late to stop what the humans had set in motion.